Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe. With the release of Nekros Prime, he came with two weapons, the Genomega Prime we checked out in the last episode, and the one that's going to be the focus of this video. Yet another version of the Tigris Prime. Now, the Tigris is already a weapon that's got two other versions of it, one of those being one of the strongest weapons in the game, the Syndicate Sancti Tigris. So what is different about this one? Well, it's got an even higher base damage of a ridiculous 1,560, 1,248 of that coming in the form of slash, 156 as both impact and puncture, making it the highest base damage of any weapon in the game. It's even 300 more than the Syndicate version. Now the supplemental stats, they're also fairly decent, 10% crit chance, 200% multiplier, not enough to mod for a crit build really, but good enough so that the crits are going to push your damage that bit higher. The Prime status chance also got pushed to an extremely useful 30%, but actually puts it into a weird territory. The fact that you can actually push it to 100% status, although this does require all 4 dual stat elementals. It still has all of the features that people know and love about the Tigris, that duplex trigger where you fire one round when you click and another when you release, plus the 2-shot magazine, making sure that you reload after every shot. Now the downsides of the weapon, obviously you've still got the 2-shot then reload, which isn't very effective on groups of enemies, so punch through is kind of mandatory, plus you do actually have a slightly longer reload, and that means the reload does feel rather long since you're doing it so often. Plus, you know, you have the damage that drops off at range. You do need to make sure that you're close to the enemy to do full damage, but let's be honest, it's a shotgun, why wouldn't you be doing that anyway? Now, I don't normally do this, but so many people have been wanting me to say whether I think the Sancti Tigris or the Tigris Prime is better. For me, it's fairly clear the Prime wins in my book. The Prime, it does 300 damage more per shot base. Now, that means you will get even more damage out of the elementals that you put on the weapon, especially when you put something like Blaze on, which is multiplicative. It multiplies the damage effectively. Then you have a stat that you cannot see, and one that in my testing I think that the wiki has got wrong, or it's a bug, I'm not entirely sure. It says on the wiki the Sancti Tigris has 6 pellets per shot, but the Prime only has 5. But if you see the side by side on the screen right now, you can clearly see 8 damage numbers from the Prime with no multi-shot compared to the 6 of the Sancti. Now the critical damage multiplier again, both weapons only have the same 10% chance to crit, but when the Prime does, it hits harder than the Sancti, because it has the higher crit damage. Once again, because it's your multiplicative, it's multiplying the damage. That higher base damage with the higher crit damage multiplier means that when it does crit, it's going to be for quite a bit more. Now I've also seen people say the spread of the Prime is higher than the Sancti. Once again, in my testing that doesn't seem true. When you put them side by side, the Prime seems to have the better spread, a tighter spread, meaning that not only does it have more pellets to take advantage of with multi-shot, but you also has less chance of actually missing one. Now what is true though is that the reload speed is lower on the Prime compared to the Sancti, and since you're reloading constantly, this is going to make a big difference, especially when combined with the radial AoE 1000 corrosive damage and guaranteed corrosive proc the Sancti provides every couple of minutes or so. Now in terms of the single target raw power, I don't think there's any question the Prime is better than the Sancti for sure. For focusing down high priority targets, bombards, your heavy gunners, things like that, the Prime is going to do that way better than Sancti. However, at lower levels where killing quickly and efficiently is key, especially when the proc is still killing all the enemies around you, I would have to give the win to the Sancti Tigris. So really, while the Prime is unquestionably more powerful than the Syndicate version per shot, it kind of depends on what you want it for, and what levels you're going up against really, as to which is going to work out best. And that, honestly, is the perfect definition of a side grade. Now, in terms of what I actually built, and the build I put on the Prime, for once, we can have a bit of a mess around with some unconventional builds. We are going to start off though with the bog standard cookie cutter Tigris Prime build. Prime Point Blank, Hell's Chamber, Seeking Fury for reload speed and punch through, Sweeping Serration for insane slash damage, the two 90% elementals, and put Blaze on there. Try to include Blaze for every single build that you can do. The damage increase it gives is huge. And the final one is really personal preference. I went with Tactical Pump, and there's a good reason for that. When you combine Seeking Fury and Tactical Pump, you drop your reload from 1.8 to 1.2, which is over half a second difference. The Tigris Prime already has insane damage per shot, way more than you're often realistically going to need. So making yourself kill more quickly and more efficiently is something I feel helps the weapon way more than simply whacking on another elemental on there for more damage, which for the most part is going to be overkill anyway. With that 0.6 second faster reload after 6 shots, you've already saved enough time to cover an entire reload cycle. So imagine that over the course of the mission and you can see how effective that is. Now, you could go with the second build here, which is one that started as a bit of a laugh by Quiet Shy really, which is the quad shot Tigris. Prime point blank, Hell's Chamber, Seeking Fury, Sweeping Serration once again, combined with 2 90% elementals, a maxed out ammo stock, and a rank 1 burden magazine. This way you effectively get 4 shots per reload, two sets of 2 effectively. You do lose a lot of damage with this, but you've obviously, compared to the other one, you've lost an entire elemental from the build before, as well as using the tactical pump mod, you've lost that as well. However, the fact that you now have double the shots for each reload means that, like the previous build, we're focusing on killing quickly and efficiently, where the damage loss really isn't going to be that noticeable until the higher levels anyway. It's a build that I like very, very much, and was my most used build on the Sancti version. Now the third build is a bit of a fun build, I know right, me with an out-of-the-box fun build, what is this madness? But because of the status chance increase, a 100% status build is viable and kind of fun. I don't like status chance on shotguns because unless it's 100%, it doesn't work as effectively as you would imagine. And I'm going to link my video onto how shotgun status works in the description below. Fair warning though, it is a bit mathematical, so it might not be for everybody. But once again, we've got the starting mods here, Prime Point Blank, Hell's Chamber, Seeking Fury, Sweeping Serration, and then we stick all 4 dual stat elemental and status mods on there. It brings it up to 100% status and makes things rather amusing. Yes, you lose a lot of damage, but this build's actually fairly fun. It does need all 4 of the dual stats, so it limits you to a couple of elemental combos. You can only really go with Corrosive Blast, Radiation Viral, or Magnetic and Gas. But since Radiation Viral is so effective, I would actually use that on both Grenier and Corpus, and Corrosive and Blast is very, very good for shredding armor. It's a pretty decent build, and it's a lot of fun. Now, I know you're going to be asking in the comments about Vicious Spread. Vicious Spread I don't think is worth it. The damage increase versus actually missing more pellets, for me, doesn't make it worth it. I would rather keep the spread tighter and do more damage with extra elementals than to stick something on that is going to increase the spread and mean that you're going to miss more pellets. The damage increase versus missed pellets, for me, does not make it worth it. It looks good on the UI screen, but when you actually try and apply the damage, it's sticking a max heavy caliber on everything. You're going to miss half of your shots, so you've you've increased the damage of one shot. If you miss the multi-shot, what's the point? So that's where I stand on Vicious Spread. It's going to be personal preference, I know for sure, everything is, and I know spread isn't as much of a problem as if you're in the enemy's face, but that's my personal preference. I very much do not like that mod. So do I think the Tigris Prime is worth the farm and the former? And like the Galantine Primer yesterday, hell yes, I do think it's worth it. This is easily one of the strongest weapons in the game right now, and it's in a crazy place where it's actually so damn strong that you can do some slightly weird builds with it, and it still works out, even into your higher end content. I've always liked the Tigris and the Sancti Tigris. It's a cool weapon with an interesting mechanic, that duplex auto trigger. The double barrel shotgun is something in Warframe that Warframe always needed that, and the Tigris filled this niche, and even with only the 2 shots per reload, it kept up with the other shotguns easily. Do I think the Prime needs to exist? Well, that's a completely different matter. Did we really need another Tigris? I mean, really, we already have 2. Why did we need another one? Why didn't we give a damage boost via a Prime to another weapon that might be more deserving? Cough Tiburon. So why did we end up with a 3rd version of the Tigris? But, you know, regardless of my opinions on that, is it worth upgrading from the Sancti Tigris? Honestly, I think it is. I know it has the slower reload and the loss of the Syndicate proc, but with it being that much stronger per shot, it actually allows you to do some more quality of life improving stuff, instead of your standard add more damage meta that we always seem to end up with, like putting tactical pump on for example. I'll be using the Prime probably way more than my Sancti, plus holy crap, the thing looks amazing. in my opinion, it's worth it just for a weapon that simply looks as good as it does. As always, feedback, comments, queries in the comments below. I've got a Nekros video coming soon, still finishing the former on him, as well as some feedback on the new Void now I've had a chance to experience the grind. Plus my glyph is now in game, as you can see in the screenshot, and I will be working out how to give out some codes so you guys can rock my glyph in game as well. But all this guys, many thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.